I am especially grateful to Donnie and the leadership team for letting us bring an expert in to speak with us today, somebody who works in the space every single day that can share some great best practices with us and some thought starters. Nick Rosenheim is here. He is the CEO of OneDrop. OneDrop specializes in social media growth, social media advertising, search engine optimization, and marketing and website development. Nick and his team help brands systemically grow social media. So in addition to having all of that great digital experience, he's also a former youth baseball player. So he's got some passion in place for what we do here at the organization. So I know he has a lot that he wants to share. I hope that you'll find it to be valuable, and I'm going to turn it over quickly to him.
Thanks, Tracy. It's always nice when you get an introduction that you can't live up to, so appreciate that. So Kelly, I'm kind of glad she's not here. She, in her slide, she said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it, and I promise this won't take 5 minutes. So we'll get right to it. I want to share all these slides. I don't know if the clicker's working. I want to share all these slides with everyone, and if anybody needs to contact me, has questions about it, here's my information. So also, before I came up here, Tracy had asked me, put a picture of yourself or something playing baseball to prove, to show people that you're legit, and that, you belong in this space and earn their trust. So here's a picture of me falling asleep after a game about 10 years ago. So now that I got that, maybe we could just go next because I don't know if the clicker's working. We can get started. So of all the 100 billion people who've ever lived on planet Earth, 2.5% are currently on social media. Next. So why does that matter? Well, it doesn't. But here's what does. We can go next slide. 78 million people in the US on Facebook are currently baseball enthusiasts. So that's our total available market, 78 million people. And what I'm going to show you is how do we start bringing them over to the USSSA side. Next slide. So in the name of efficiency, I mean, the goal of this is efficiency, which is how to teach you guys how to basically put in minimum effort to get maximum output. So I put together 10 kind of hacks that you can all use, and use this presentation as a reference to grow your social media presence online. There's always two main elements to social media. This is obvious, but it's content, it's the information, and it's the community. It's people and it's information, and it's the way that we manipulate those two variables that really determine the success of our campaign efforts, and we'll get into specifics. Next slide. So we'll start with content. Next slide. We're always selling a feeling. No product is sold from the product itself. The reason that the most successful companies and the most successful Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest accounts occur is because they know how to sell a feeling, and they know what feeling they want to elicit in their audience. And as creatures, it's our basic nature. I mean, even if you look at an amoeba, we're always moving away from things we don't want towards things we want. At its most basic level, this is marketing. So we're either from fear, moving away from something to get something to help us, or moving towards something because we think it'll benefit us in some way, whether it's emotionally or something more physical. Next. 99%. I mean, I feel this way a lot, and I'm assuming other people feel it as well. Is that when you're doing social media, it kind of feels like you're throwing content into this endless void, right? And the reality is 99% of all posts go nowhere. It's probably more like 99.9% of all posts go nowhere, because people are focused on the actual product or service itself and not on the feeling they're trying to create within the audience. Next slide. So before we make our content, before we make a post, we're always thinking about how we want people to feel first. So we're not trying to push the content first. What do we want? Do we want to inspire people? Do we want to make them laugh? Do we want them to make a certain action? How do we want them to feel? And then we design the post around that feeling. Next slide. So some of these things are interests, top 10 lists. Their humor kills it on social media. It always has, and it probably will forever. Urgency, deadlines, the fear of missing out. In our case, I love the idea of standings, playoffs, competition, taking a 2-2 fastball to right field and having a one-hop off the wall. Right fielder plays the carom, throws a one-hop seed to the second baseman, gets the guy out going for 2. I mean, to me, that's just baseball poetry. So think about that feeling that we want, and then we design the content around that. The next slide. So here's an example. I see everybody walking around with Starbucks cups. They're one of the best at this. But again, they're not selling coffee here. They're selling the feeling that you get after taking your first sip of coffee. That moment when we go from tired to that kind of relaxed wakefulness, of drinking coffee. That's what they're selling, and that's what people are going to buy. Next slide. The feeling of belonging is one of the highest needs of human beings, and it's one that marketers use a lot. Rafa's a gear company for biking, and they promote a lot of this kind of group mentality, and it's something that I see from you guys. The kind of brother and sisterhood around here, and feeling part of this is a huge reason why you all are here. And so I want you to use that strength, to show people to be part of this family. And that everybody's kind of got each other's backs. It's just a really powerful way to leverage that to drive engagement. Okay, we can go next slide. And then Chubbies. This company honestly does not sell good swimsuits. They sell fat guys running around double fisting ice cream cones. And people buy them because they do them. So people are like, yeah, well, I'm like one of those. Yeah, like I like that. I like that feeling of that brand. And they went viral, and they're probably drop shipping their products from China for 10 cents on the dollar, or cent on the dollar. So they just took an already product that existed, created a great brand, and have gone viral. All right, next. So here's an idea for USSSA. So something like this, you got to coach Young's kids, and I would say something like, it's not that they don't hear you, it's just that they don't like you. And so, think about, that response. And, everybody knows that overbearing coach that takes things way too seriously. It's like, we're just trying, we care about winning, and the competition's important, but at the end of the day, you're taking it way more seriously than these kids are. It's kind of ridiculous. So this kind of pokes fun at that. Next slide. This is kind of a side hack, but one of the most powerful ways to get people engaged in anything is through social proof. We do things, there's just so many studies on this, but basically we do things because we see other people doing them. And we validate our behavior based on what other people do. It's not like what's his name, Yogi Berra, who said nobody goes there, it's too crowded. It's the opposite, where we see people eating at a restaurant, that validates the fact that the restaurant's probably decent. Now, the higher the authority who's doing that, the more it's validated. So if you saw a celebrity, or Kobe Bryant or whatever eating at a restaurant, that feeling would increase. So go to the next slide, and we'll see we need to leverage the assets that you guys already have. CBS, ESPN, you have umps who are legit, who take this seriously. You have really organized, well-presented, fantastic brand, and you need to use the social proof that's already there. So growth hack number 2 is, how do we get people to remember what we're doing? So we figured out how we get people to take action is through really focusing on emotion. How do we get people to remember? Next slide. It's most determined by uniqueness and emotional intensity. So if you think about the things that you remember in your life, the things that will always stand out are the things that were different and the things that were intense. That's just how it works. We don't remember, we don't remember going to work every day and what every little individual detail was about. We remember the big, intense, weird things that happened. In fact, there's this guy, Jonah Four, who wrote this book, Moonwalking with Einstein. If you feel like reading it, it's kind of interesting. He became the memory champion of the world in 1 year just by leveraging tactics like this. Next slide. And in that, with marketing, there's this idea of the purple cow theory, which is if you're driving on the side of the road and you drive past a pasture and you see a purple cow, you're going to stop and get out and be like, what is going on? And basically, we want to do that with marketing. We want to create purple cows as much as possible. And you got to be a little weird to do it. But if you do it right, this is where things go viral. So I'll go to the next slide. Here's a couple examples of this type of thing. And these are posts taken from real life onto social media. But this is a post, marketing a track event. I don't know what that means. It looks like it's German. But just really smart, really well done. Next slide. Same thing with Visa, really smart, really clever. It'll make you stop and be like, whoa, what's really going on? What's happening here? It makes you stop instead of just filtering out all the other marketing stuff like we're so used to doing. Next slide. This one's great. This one's great just because of the disappointment. So Colgate ran this with an ad series with ice cream bars. So kids were eating the ice cream bar and then just got like this miserable reminder, about brushing your teeth. And just like the disappointment and awe was just kind of amazing. So growth hack number 3, and this is one that I think is most useful in terms of it's easiest to do, and that's to steal what's already working. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We take what other people have done that's working really well, and we adopt it. Let's go to the next slide. So there's this tool called BuzzSumo, and this is going to be, if anybody who's really serious about this wants pay a small fee for this really viral content search tool. What it does is you go in, you type in something like youth baseball. It shows you the highest trending posts on youth baseball right now. So this one on the top, best speech I ever witnessed in youth sports. It's okay to cry because we're not going to play baseball. Okay. 45,000 shares. So 2 things you can do is you can use this to inform your posts, but you can also just repost this and just give them credit and boost it and watch that go viral. So this is a really easy, simple, high leverage way to get a ton of growth because we're just taking what's already out there and we're sharing it again. Next slide. Design really does matter. If something's not designed right, people won't respect it. And that's just the way it is. And so it's always worth taking time to make sure things look clean and professional as possible. And they did this study, showed that 93% of people bought something with the main reason being the way it looked, not even its functionality. Just the way it made them feel. Again, the look has a huge impact on the way people feel. Next slide. All right, so we got this kid. He's a stud, but it's just a regular picture. So go to the next slide. Okay, we've used a program called Canva, which is super easy drag and drop. You can just take regular pictures and you can make them look really professional. You can put it already has all of the text on there. And so it basically will make you look a lot better than you actually are at design really quickly. So that's a great tool. But then we can get a little bit absurd and we can throw some weird stuff in there. So I grabbed this, I threw this into another program called Photo Lab, and you can do a caption contest, with people, that are on your page. Make it fun, make it different, make people stop when they're scrolling. If someone's scrolling through social media and they see this, they go, what the hell is this? And they're gonna stop and be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And so, use the tools that are out there, something like Photo Lab, to make unique content that people will stop and look at. Next. So just a really basic overview of the content. Emotions drive action. So we figure out what we want people to feel, then we build the content. If you want to be unique, if you want to be remembered, you have to be unique. So take the risk to put something out there that's different. And then steal from what's already there and use tools. Always, half of my job is researching new tools to figure out how to do my job easier, more efficiently, and different. And then, if you're still kind of like, I don't really know, I kind of just like the way I'm doing it, just remember, next slide, we're just on a tiny rock floating through infinite space, so, you can take the risk. It's not that big of a deal, I promise. Okay, growth. So we got content down. Let's talk more about actual actionable growth tips. Next slide. Invite likes from notifications. So this is something that you can do every day. And I'm going to run through it briefly. If you go to your notifications tab, you can click on a post. This is one I had for a client where I had fish is the only food that's considered spoiled once it smells like what it is. And you can see that if you click on where the emojis and likes are, the list of people who liked or interacted. You then go in, and you can invite all those people to like your page. You can do about 20 to 30 a day, or else Facebook will say you're doing too much. But if you get five out of 25 people come to like your page from that over the course of the year, we're talking about 1,500 people. So it's these kind of a daily repeatable tasks that over the long run create viral growth. Pay promotion. So everything was good. Next slide. Everything was good, cool on Facebook until they IPO'd, because then they had to make money. And so what ended up happening is that all the reach that we all had organically wasn't there anymore. Facebook started to make sure that you paid to get the reach that you wanted, or that you once had. And so it kind of became a little bit of a bummer. However, there is a way to hack this as well. So we go to the next slide. First of all, it doesn't take much to reach a ton of people. So here's a post I did for a client. For $20, it got 247 shares, 22 comments, 1,600 likes, and it's probably still circling. It's probably still being shared out there somewhere. And the way you do this is through Facebook's algorithm. There's a kind of a way. Next slide. Facebook, there's so much content shown on Facebook that it would just be miserable if Facebook just evenly distributed it all to people, because most of it's trash. And so Facebook wants to make sure that people see the best of the best. And the way they do that is through their algorithm, where the more engagement a post has, the further it goes, the more people see it. So they know it's relevant, they know it's a good post because people are engaging with it, and so they show it to more people. It's pretty simple. And so how do we do that with paid advertising? Next step. Next slide. We align our content with our target market. And Facebook's detailed targeting is pretty weird and creepy, but it is what it is. And that is, we have this post, let's say, on Bartolo Colon's top 10 moments. We can target the 76,000 people that are interested in Bartolo Colon on Facebook. And so when you align that content with people that are already interested and like Bartolo Colon, you're going to get a huge engagement rate, which is going to blow up the reach that you have. And so another example, next slide. With USSSA in Southern California adults who play softball. The audience is already right there, and if we put something really relevant in front of them, the engagement rate is going to be really high. You're going to reach a ton more people and get a lot more followers that way. All right, next slide. I'm going to go through this quick because this takes a little bit more engagement. Facebook groups, basically you type in your relevant term, youth baseball, for example. Next slide. You can go to groups on the top right. It'll show you a list of all relevant groups. So on the top it says baseball coaching advice and tips for youth baseball. It's perfect. 20,000 people are in that group. You go in there, you offer some advice, you engage with the people in there, and those people will start following you as a result. So the engagement is really important if you're going to be, part of a group. But this is the way to reach the really relevant audience. Next slide. As we can see, there's 13 new posts a day. And there's a ton of members. It's a really good opportunity. It's pretty simple and something you can do on a daily basis. Back with the stealing thing. We're just going to steal our competitors' best followers. So here's what we do. If I can go next slide. Little League has almost 200,000 followers. That's great for them. We're going to take all of them. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the followers. They did all the hard work for us. We're going to click on their comments. We're going to see who's most engaged, who's most interested in Little League, and we're going to like and follow them. And in turn, because they're already super engaged on Instagram, they're going to follow us back. A really high percentage will follow us back. And it's just a really efficient way to grow an Instagram channel. And plus, we're bringing people over from our competitors back onto us, so it kind of has a two-sum game. Growth hack number 8, ego baiting. So there's a lot being talked about influencer marketing. People in the field who have a lot of followers. How do we get them to post about us? And just asking them to do a post isn't usually the best way to do it. But a lot of ways, people love being interviewed because they like it when content's posted about them. It feeds their ego. And they'll end up sharing posts about them. So a lot of times, what I'll do for clients is I'll go out to industry leaders and I'll ask them for an interview, and then I'll create posts based on that. So next slide. So these are a bunch of big chefs in the restaurant industry for a client that I did that we got a bunch of interviews with that really at first wanted nothing to do with us, but then when we offered something for them, all of a sudden they were pretty interested. And then again, these people have tons of followers. They share these posts, and we grow as a result. So number 9, this idea of activation energy. This is more of a psychological principle, but it's the idea that we want to lower the barrier for things we want to do and raise the barrier for things we don't want to do. So if you were a smoker, for example, you wanted to try quitting smoking, I wouldn't tell you to just quit smoking. I would say put a pack of cigarettes 2 blocks away from you and have to walk over there every time you have to smoke one. I guarantee you'll smoke less. So you raise the energy for things you don't want to do. You lower them for things you do want to do. So there's an example of a guy who wanted to learn to play the violin. He just put it in his living room with all the scorebook there and everything. And because he spent so much time in there, it's just natural for him to gravitate towards that. So we can obviously use this principle in our own lives, but it can be really useful as well on social media. Next slide. This one's a little blurry, but basically this is a lead generation form. So you take a form, and instead of asking people to register for an event on your website, you can get them to register right on Facebook. So next slide. So for example, this is an awesome post, but instead of saying save the date, we can just say pre-register and have people already sign up right there. So always thinking about how do we make it easier for people to get engaged with what we want them to do. Because people will generally go the path of least resistance. Next slide. And the last one is it's best not to go at it alone. If you have a team, you don't need to be a marketer to do this. A lot of marketers don't want you to know that because that's how we make our money, is pretending like there's some magic trick to all of this, but there's not. You can delegate this, and if you stay engaged, you can go as viral as the next person. But it's too much to ask one person to do because it's going to be a low priority item for you. It just will be. You have other things to worry about. So it's really important that you get someone who can be on there consistently. And then focus, there's another concept, another psychological concept called Zorro circles, which was when Zorro apparently was learning his craft, his master made him do everything within this tiny circle and learn to master everything without moving outside of that. And once he did, then they'd expand it. So what you can do is pick one of these principles and really master it, and then begin to grow from there. You don't need to tackle everything at once. If you're great at one of these things, that will be enough. And it'll also give you the feeling of control because you'll start to see the results of your effort. Next slide. Last thing is, again, we're all really busy. John Kabat-Zinn has this quote. He says, we're always doing and doing and doing that we forget who's actually doing the doing. So be conscious. Just remember that it's you who's doing it and you who has the possibilities to engage, infinitely, and have some fun with it too. And that's it. That should be the last one. Yeah, that's it. So I will be happy to take any questions. I don't know how much time, which I assume we're pretty good. What's up, man?
Daughters for the younger generation being better at this than some of the older generation. What would you recommend if you went to like a college and said, "Hey, I want to hire somebody for a social media person"? What would you recommend being beneficial for them, but also for us?
Yeah.
On a salary piece.
It's a good question. I mean,
Clicks by likes.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, and you're hinting at it there, which is the most important thing when you hire anybody to do marketing is to make sure that you can track their success. Because the worst thing is to be paying someone and having no idea whether, what the results of their effort is. So come up with very specific markers, whether it's followers, whether it's registrations, whatever really matters to you, and and make sure that that person continually updates those statistics so that you can see the progress over time. As far as salary, I mean, it's really hard to say. If they're a college student, I usually ask them, what they would charge, and then see if it's reasonable. But I would think, hourly college student rate, whatever that is. And they're probably just stoked to have the opportunity and then be able to kind of build up their portfolio. I would say between $10, $12, and $15. Yeah. And then also just a reminder that I really want everybody to have access to these slides. I try to make them as straightforward so that they're as actionable as possible. But yeah, anything else? Yeah.
So when we post on Facebook, they'll say, like, I get a lot of engagement,
Mhm.
but I only get like maybe 200 views.
Mhm.
What's the algorithm saying?
So Facebook, is it just without being boosted, just an organic? Yeah, just organic. Facebook in general doesn't want organic. I mean, I think within the next couple of years there will be no organic reach. So even though you've had really good engagement, and actually there's different levels of the marker of engagement. So for example, comments are weighted the most. And so if it's just likes, you probably won't get the reach boost that you might if you had a ton of comments, which is also why it's important to comment on people's comments to continue the discussion. So in this case, I think it's just an issue with it being organic and just not having the reach limited. But still, I mean, 200 something isn't bad for organic.
Does it say like 3,000 engagement and 260 views?
Oh,
What's the big difference?
that it shouldn't say that. I've never seen that before.
I always thought maybe it's just, is it their friends are engaging, but they're not viewing?
So is it video or is it?
Sometimes videos when I post, the views tend to be.
Yeah, that's just the impressions should be the total number of people who have seen it. I mean, yeah, it's possible that if the shares get a lot more impressions, that they may not count those. They may only count the direct impressions and views. So that's a possibility, but I'm not quite sure.
And when you said boosted, I see a lot more.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I mean even a dollar boost post, makes a big difference. What's that? Did that answer?
Instagram,
Yeah.
But is Instagram more for a younger audience, or is that supplanting Facebook? Or
Instagram is a younger demographic. And one thing I forgot to mention is these principles, they cross blend over pretty much all social platforms. I mean, I didn't want to say like, oh, this Facebook hack or this Instagram hack. I wanted to use more general ones that you could apply across channels. But yes, Instagram generally is a younger demographic. And so if you want to reach, more youth you can do that because they're owned by Facebook. So you can actually do boosted posts through Facebook on Instagram. So that way you're using a platform you're comfortable with, but still reaching the demographic that you want. Does that make sense?
and is Twitter still? I mean, like
Twitter's still in the game. I don't think there's that many kids that use Twitter. I use Twitter to get in contact with reporters and things like that. It does work for Donald Trump. It helps when you got as many followers as he does. It works for people who have, a distinct niche following, and people that are really loyal and want, to hear, your thoughts in real time because of how easy it is to tweet and how everything shows up when you tweet. That will show up on all of your followers' feeds. Whereas if you post on Facebook, it doesn't necessarily. So generally, yeah. I mean, if you use a program like Buffer that allows you to cross post, there's so many programs or Sprout Social or whatever that allows you to cross post. Use that because then one post will just automatically sync across all your platforms. What's up, man? Yeah, honestly, I don't know that much about Snap. It's not one of my bread and butter accounts. I know that the geo targeting in Snapchat can be used. So when people get into a certain area, all of a sudden you can have filters that are related to your product or service, and that's a way to reach them. But I would have to defer to probably a Snapchat expert on that. But you're right that it is every kid's on Snapchat. You're right. Well, naturally, so the average post on Facebook I think only about 2 to 3% of people see it who will follow you. And yes, that's because Facebook wants you to pay to boost it, which sucks because you're paying to boost people that are already following, to reach people that are following you. But again, fortunately, I don't make the rules, but probably because they assume you have more money if you have more followers. Okay, we got one here and then one over here. So on Instagram, mainly done on Instagram. If you go to their posts, you'll be able to see, obviously the comments, see whoever liked the post. And so through the comments, you can click on their profile and just invite them or follow them or like their post. Facebook, it's mainly for Instagram. Facebook is mainly the hack that I showed where you boost a post and anybody who's liked your post, you can invite. However, in Facebook targeting, you can pay to target other people's followers. So we can target people who have interested or liked Little League's page, for example. And so there's still a way to reach those people on Facebook, which is a little bit different of a process. I'm sorry, I don't know if that was clear, but okay. On Instagram, you can go to someone's post and see who liked their post, see who commented on their post, go to that person's profile, like their stuff, follow them. They'll see that you followed them and they'll probably follow you back. Facebook, you can't do that on an individual profile, but we can target general groups of people. So we can target people who follow Little League and serve them with, an ad or some sort of content. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so Facebook probably paid ads. Instagram can be more native. Through Facebook's advertising platform, you can pay a small amount to target those people. Yes. And last one, real quick.
If I'm a person running my own social media and I want to focus on one or two of these hacks, how much time, like per day or per week, do you think I should spend on that?
I would say half hour a day is plenty. Half hour. It doesn't take, it's the consistency that matters. It doesn't take forever. Also, as far as building content, a lot of times I'll bulk build it. So I'll create a ton of posts up front, schedule them. So then it's on automatic for months at a time. So just consider doing that too. With social, a lot of the work can be done up front. And then as far as the individual engagement stuff, you can just do that, I would say on a daily basis in real time. Cool. Well, I hope this was helpful, and I appreciate you guys sticking with it. Thanks.